This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, big game day edition. Jets Oilers tonight at 8 p.m. We've been looking forward to this one for a while. Obviously, you get a chance to see McDavid. Fortunately, maybe to some, doesn't look like we'll be seeing Leon Draisaitl tonight. And, of course, the Jets looking to bounce back from that 6-2 loss in Vancouver a couple nights ago. We've also been looking forward to it because tonight is a big WST watch party with Little Brown Jug and Boston Pizza at the BP Garden City on McPhillips. So if you've got an open slate tonight and you're looking for a great crew to watch the game with, come down and join us and WST listeners at Boston Pizza Garden City for that 8 p.m. puck drop. We've got some great prizes from Little Brown Jug. Of course, BP will have the usual great Jets program, including the picker player contest, where we'll be spinning the prize wheel after Winnipeg Jet goals. And we'll be doing some fun trivia and games in between periods as well. So if you don't have plans tonight, now you do. Join us, BP Garden City tonight with Little Brown Jug, and we'll have a couple 1919s and hopefully see the Jets get back into the win column. We're going to be all over this game today. Tommy Gazzola, the handsome one, will join us in just a few minutes from Edmonton. We'll get the latest on the Oilers going into tonight's game. Brandon Rewucki is going to jump on with us a little later on. And right now, we're going to hear a little bit of Connor McDavid, and then we hope to later on have a little bit for you post Winnipeg Jetskate, which is just wrapping up in and around right now. And of course, we're keeping an eye on March Madness as well. Winnipeg Simon Hildebrandt and High Point, I believe they're called the Panthers. They are down 6 right now in the second half, so they were 7.5-point underdogs. We'll stay on top of this one and see whether we might get our first upset of March Madness with the Sea Bear Stars team now down in the NCAA. And later on, I'm going to check in with our friends at Sport Manitoba, and nominations are open for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. John Waldman's going to jump on from the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame a little bit later on. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, welcome to everybody in chat. Great to see you. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Shout out to all you podcast listeners making WST a part of your daily routine. And a huge thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen. Of course, our friends at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Canadian Club, Rowley's Transfer, St. Vital Dental, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, fansfirst.ca, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, the Winnipeg Jets, and we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get this show on the road. Remis, what's up?
What's up? Well, we're a day away from spring, snow's melting, and big game tonight, Jets, Oilers. Interesting here, McDavid being asked if this is a measuring stick game for the Oilers. As usually it's we're asking the Jets players if it's a measuring stick game for them, but looking at the standings, the number one team in the league is the Winnipeg Jets, and these teams haven't played for a while. This last meeting, October 7 to start the season, 6-0 victory for the Jets. And the Jets coming off, it's kind of opposite way here. The Jets had a 6-2 loss to Vancouver, one of their worst losses of the year. And Edmonton just had a 7-1 win over Utah, as they're kind of been, I don't know, we'll hear from Tom, but they've been up and down all year. Concerns about their goaltending. Now for Edmonton, Leon Draisaitl, he's day-to-day, and he's doubtful for tonight. They didn't say other way, but he's day-to-day and doubtful for this evening. So I'm feeling good. Us looking forward to the Boston Pizza wash party with Little Brown Jug. Make sure to have a couple 1919s when I'm there.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll look forward to seeing folks down at BP on McPhillips tonight for the game. I mean, you mentioned just how streaky the Oilers have been. Maybe nowhere near as streaky as last year, where they were the worst team in the league for the first 2 months and then ended up rattling off 16 straight, making the playoffs, and then going all the way to Game 7 of the Cup final. But it has been a nice little week for the team. After back-to-back losses to the Buffalo Sabres and New Jersey Devils, they rattled off 3 straight wins in New York against the Islanders, at MSG against the Rangers, and at home against the Utah Hockey Club. And what's most impressive, and this isn't something you normally associate with Edmonton, Reem, is the fact that they've only given up 1 goal in each of their last 3 games. And listen, Connor McDavid and the offensive talent on the Oilers are going to get theirs at some point. If the Oilers just allow 1 goal, they're going to win pretty much every night. So, the challenge for the Jets is twofold. Fire up the offense and be able to continue to generate what they've been doing, but they got to be way better in their own end. And that's not something we've really said almost at all this season. But considering just how loose they were defensively against Vancouver, a good video session or 2 with the fellas to get them ready tonight, I'm sure was part of the preparation for the Jets coaching staff.
Yeah, the Jets wanted to pick up their neutral zone play. It was just on that on that goal that was the Höglander one to end the period. They just passed their way through, and that led to the Lowry line getting broken up with Niederreiter and Appleton. And we wondered coming in today, Hustler, would that line, remain broken up with Lowry, Tanev, Iafallo had it ended, or would they go back to what's been going all season? Well, they stepped on the ice today at the morning skate and back to what's been going for pretty much the whole year. Niederreiter on the left side with Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton, and the fourth line, Brandon Tanev with Morgan Barron and Alex Iafallo. And it was a rough game for the for the Niederreiter Appleton, winger duo, whether it was Lowry at center or Barron. And offensively, the production just hasn't been there for them. Niederreiter's got a 14-game goal drought. Mason Appleton, he's got 1 assist in 10 games, and they were on the ice for a couple goals against last game, and that's not normally what you see. Those guys are usually in the offensive end, grinding away in the corners, having puck possession, and seems to be a bit of a dip. I wonder if the leash is a bit shorter tonight, as Arneal said he had to do something and switch it up. So I think that's something to watch here, and I'm curious what he's going to say. I know Mike tweeted out he was expecting them to continue where they left off, but they went back to what they've been going with the whole year.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of thought that they might start the way things ended, and give it a little bit of time. But I will say, if there's a line that deserves the benefit of the doubt, I guess it's that unit with what they've done for the last couple of seasons. But I mean, there's no mistaking the fact that the offense is dried up, and they got loose. I mean, they got burned on the rush a couple times in that game last week, and I'm sure that will be the focus first and foremost before looking for more offense. I do wonder, though, if at what point Scott Arneal decides to, can we say get lit? Go with the lit line? Lowry, Iafallo, and Tanev? Because when he did that in the game against Vancouver, it didn't take long for Alex Iafallo to get on the board, and that change pays some dividends for the Winnipeg Jets pretty much early on.
Yeah, and you wonder what was their plan for Brandon Tanev when they acquired him. He's played with Lowry in the past. Were they looking just to ease him in with the fourth line and then move him up to the third? Or, do they have long-term divisions of him as the fourth line guy? So, they put them together. They score right away. They had great success. And I thought they would go back to that. But I think there's something to be said that, hey, Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter, they've been together all year. Let them try to get out of it on their own. And hey, if it's not working, you can always switch. Just because they skate with these at the morning skate doesn't mean, they're locked in for 60 minutes. It's pretty easy to be like, hey, no, this isn't working. I liked what we saw before. And for Alex Iafallo, I mean, he's had a great season. He's produced, getting limited minutes. He's also getting power play time as well. I liked seeing him being rewarded. And Brandon Tanev, he's been a ball of energy. He's been as advertised. He's been the player you remember, and he just looks so right, Huss, in a Jets uniform, whether it's wearing number 13 in the past or number 73 now. That the Jets, we've talked all, since the deadline, they've acquired players that were a great fit in the dressing room, in Luke Schenn and Brandon Tanev.
Yeah, and of course, Schenn will be lining up with Dylan Samberg tonight on that second pairing. DeMello, after that scary incident in Vancouver, was right back out later on in the game. He and Josh Morrissey. And then, of course, the final pairing, Colin Miller and Hayden Fleury right now. Be interesting to see how much McDavid plays. And obviously the big news, and we'll hear from Knobloch in just a minute, doesn't look like Leon Draisaitl is going to be a go tonight. And that certainly puts a lot more on the shoulders of Connor McDavid. I mean, we'll talk to Tom about this in a minute. But I can tell you through doing shows with Dusty every day, the secondary scoring for the Oilers up until maybe this past week in that big game against Utah just has not been there. And when the Oilers are struggling, it shows just how much they lean on those top two players in Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. And I mean, I guess it's a break for the Winnipeg Jets. You're going up going up against a team likely without the Hart Trophy favorite. But to know that you can lose a guy that might be the MVP of the league and still have Connor McDavid out there, and that is a luxury that most teams don't have.
Yeah, I mean, Oilers still pretty good lineup. It's a big loss for them with Draisaitl. He's been the guy. He's been the NHL's goal-scoring leader. But, I mean, the McDavid line with Hyman and Nugent-Hopkins, they've done some major damage. Still, pretty good power play. And as you mentioned, the goaltending, it's been there the last few games for Edmonton. It is Jeff Skinner tonight for them. And
Stuart Skinner.
Sorry,
Stewie Skins.
Sorry, Stuart. Yes,
Jeff Skinner, though, is actually playing with McDavid on the top line along with Zach Hyman.
Yeah, here's the lines. Yeah, sorry. They got two Skinners. We just played the team with three Patersons. Two of them with the same name, pronounced differently. Now we got two Skinners. So, yes, Jeff Skinner with McDavid and Hyman. Colson, Nugent-Hopkins, Arvidsson, Perry, Henrique, Brown, Max Jones, Janmark, and Kasperi Kapanen. The D, Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Stetcher, Waldman, Kulak, and it is Corey Perry going in on that power play there with McDavid, Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins, and Bouchard. One thing, just on you talk about the injuries, a scary moment with Dylan DeMello, but Mike McIntyre updating today. The other, DeMello, he's fine, he's in, but Neil Pionk, he's been out. Mike McIntyre noting that injured defenseman Neil Pionk is riding the stationary bike outside the team's dressing room right now with no issues. There's no walking boot or brace. Mike noting there was a photo of him wearing one last weekend in Seattle at a comedy show with teammates. So it sounds like Neil Pionk is a precautionary thing. Maybe he'll be back sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they classified him as week to week. And I think that they're going to give him the time that he needs to come back and be as close to 100%. Because as Scott O'Neill said, they don't want this to be, a concern going into the playoffs. And at this point, with the Jets comfortably in first place, obviously they got to take care of some business and win some more hockey games before the end of the season. But the goal is being healthy, ready to go for game number 83 in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And if it takes a little while longer for Neil Pionk to get back in, that's just fine. Colin Miller will be more than happy to play some significant minutes on that third pairing with Hayden Fleury while they wait. And certainly we get a chance to see some more, to see some more Luke Schenn, which certainly I think Jet fans have time for with the way that he's started right now. Just here's this bit from Knobloch. He spoke after the Oilers skate today. And he said yesterday, I mean, there was a few guys that missed the skate, including McDavid, including Hyman and Draisaitl. Some of those guys might not play. Well, it sounds like the favorite for the MVP, the Hart Trophy, won't be in the lineup tonight. He is classified as doubtful. Here's what the Oilers head coach had to say on that.
Yeah, Leon tonight is doubtful to play tonight, and we'll treat this as day-to-day. And we'll need guys obviously stepping up with Leon's absence, the way he's been playing, not necessarily lately, for the entire season.
And I mean, would it be fair to say anything Leon's dealing with, you guys will be extra cautious, give him whatever time is needed, because obviously being healthy for the playoffs?
Absolutely. It's definitely being cautious. We're hitting the near the end of the regular season, hitting the playoffs. We want 100% from Leon when he's healthy, and this is something we do not want it to linger. Same thing we treated with Ekholm, something that he probably could have played through. The time off benefited him lots. We feel that this is something that, probably could play through, and maybe it's not an issue. We certainly don't want it to be an issue for the long term. So this is definitely the right play, we believe. And, Leon has played through so much. He's a battler. So there's not too often that he comes out of the lineup, So we're just being cautious here.
All right, so there is Chris Knobloch, head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. Don't expect 29 out there tonight. It'll be Connor McDavid leading the way, and other guys they'll be looking for them to step up. For the Jets side, they're going to look to get back to their defensive structure that left them a little bit against the Vancouver Canucks. We'll hear from Connor McDavid in a bit, and still hoping to get some audio from the Winnipeg Jets later on. But Tom Gazzola is coming up in just a minute. Let me thank our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Folks, if you have a move coming up in spring and summer, why not trust it to Rolly's? Family owned and operated for over 60 years, and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Pop by their website at rollys.com and click on that request an estimate feature at the top right corner. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know where you're moving, when you're planning on moving, and what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote for you and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rolly's is famous for. For your next move, trust it to Rolly's. Family owned and operated for over 60 years. Find out more or request an estimate today over at rollys.com. Well, Tommy Gazzola is coming up. There's a guy with a nice grill and a nice smile. If you are thinking spring cleaning, don't forget about your mouth. And maybe that means a trip down to see our pal Dr. Terry and the folks at the St. Vital Dental Center at 167 St. Anne's. They've been serving generations in St. Vital, but now with a beautiful new location on St. Anne's with free parking in the back. It's never been a better time to come in and get your teeth looking as good as possible for the spring and summer, or any of your other dental needs. They've been there for you, and they're dealing with customers from 6 months all the way to pushing triple digits. Find out more on everything available to you, stvitaldental.ca. Give them a call or pop by 167 St. Anne's and take care of your teeth, and tell them your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Shout out to Big Dr. Terry, top 10 finish in the marble race last week. Very, very impressive. Hey, our friends at Manitoba Battery are ready for spring and summer as well. But if we're not quite out through winter and you're wondering where your battery is at, pop by either Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive for a free battery test. And if you need one, you'll get the best deals in town because, of course, Manitoba Battery has batteries for everything at the best prices, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores, and with the best customer service as well, because they will deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the city of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Pop by and see them in store today, or for all your battery needs, shop local and get the best deals around at Manitoba Battery. Shop online at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's bring in Handsome Tommy right now and get in ready for tonight's Jets Oilers tilt. Gazzola, great to have you back on WST. What's going on?
Hey, Huss. Good to be back on WST. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks. I'm honored that I got the invite back. And lots going on. I'm down at the rink. Like, if you saw the bottom half of my body, you'd see me in full, like, hockey gear. So I just left the locker room. We have an alumni skate coming up. And Chris Dingman was absolutely shredding myself and Sean Bell. Dinger's on fire in that locker room right now. Good group of former NHLers in there. So it's going to be fun. So this is going to be good. I think the last thing Dinger said to me was the 80s called and they want their haircut back to me. So that's okay.
They're giving it to you. Yeah, hey, it wasn't just some alumni and yourself that's on the ice today, apparently. The Oilers have a new left winger?
Yeah, was it Mark Carney, the Prime Minister? What a surprise today. Well, I don't know how well he's going to skate with those goalie skates on, but yeah, he took a twirl with the team. We show up this morning thinking it's just an optional morning skate, then all of a sudden the PR team is telling us, "Oh no, not the usual routine. You guys are going to have to move to a different room. We're going to have to do things a little bit differently." And then there's the new prime minister kind of out there. He's an Oilers fan, and it's interesting because a lot of the people like on the broadcast truck and a few others around here know him from when he grew up playing hockey here. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a big politics guy. I tend to like sports and other things more than politics. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, he's from Edmonton. I was like, what? Well, that's great. So, you know what, the secret security and all of that, this whatever they're called, our Secret Service, the German Shepherds were roaming around. Everybody's kind of taking a second glance at you. It was one of those types of mornings where you're like, okay, this is going to be weird, but he showed up for a good game, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this is two of the top teams in Canada going at it, and man, it's been a while since these teams have met each other. I mean, 6-0, but that was October 7th. And listen, doing shows with Dusty every day, I'm kind of locked in on the Oilers, the second right behind the Jets. And like, they have just been so streaky. I mean, I remember talking to him about a week ago, dreading going in the morning and doing a show. I mean, I'm sure you've been feeling it too, doing the post-game shows on Edmonton Sports Talk. I mean, it hasn't been totally smooth sailing, but this last week has been great. After those losses to Buffalo and New Jersey, they rattled off 3 in a row. Huge offensive explosion against Utah. But maybe most impressive, Tommy, is that they only allowed 1 goal against in their last 3 games. And that hadn't been something that the Oilers had done consistently all year.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I just want to add, great pun when you mentioned you're locked in with Dusty there. So well done, Huss. Gene Principe's not here, man. Anyway, I asked Chris Knobloch this morning about that. Like, you know, Winnipeg, obviously the best team in the league, and they deserve all the respect in the world for what they've done this season, rightly so. And then, you know, with the Oilers, this 3-game winning streak, that was what he pointed to was his number one thing that he really appreciated about his team's effort lately, and that is only allowing 1 goal in the last handful of games. And the offense obviously showed up against Utah. This team, for whatever reason, had struggled to score goals. You know, they were losing games 3-2, and we're hearing people here blame Stu Skinner and Calvin Pickard and say, "Oh my God, why couldn't they make that save? Why?" You know, and it's like, well, you're in a 3-2 league, and your team's only getting 2 for a 2.5-3-week stretch. So what do you expect? But yeah, the defensive side of the Oilers game has improved. The penalty killing, Huss, has been pretty wonky all year. It had a good stretch. It had a good 3-4 week run, and then it kind of dipped quite a bit actually, and it wound up back in 25th, 26th, and slowly climbing back up. So, you know, we're seeing better structure in the neutral zone, obviously more attention to detail in the defensive zone, and on top of that, the Oilers they've been a good possession team all season long. That has stayed true, and most of the time they're in the offensive zone. It's defending off the rush that it's killed this team, and then you know, spotty defensive play. And I'm not going to let the goalies off the hook. They have had some rough nights, and they have let in some stinkers, but the last couple of games, Cal Pickard and Stu Skinner have played pretty good.
Pretty sad that Draisaitl is opting out of a matchup between the top 2 contenders for the Hart Trophy. I guess you know, maybe just didn't want to get made look bad by Hellebuck and shift those lines too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's firmly tongue in cheek. What is up with Dry? This is a guy that has done everything for Edmonton this year. And is this just a matter of, listen, they know they're in the playoffs. While we're looking forward to this game, the importance of it one way or the other is probably not going to change the big picture for Edmonton. And this is the time to give the guy a day off, or are they a little bit maybe more concerned about the heavy lifting that he's done? And right now they'll shut him down for a few games if they have to get him ready for the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to start calling him Kadri Leonard or anything like that, because the guy's been a workhorse. If something's bothering him and
this isn't load management, just trying to opt away from having to go against Helly.
No, exactly. He's a gamer, man. This guy, as we've seen in years past, like he's up for the big games. He loves going toe to toe with all the big boys. He doesn't back down. So something it's obviously bothering him. Now we don't necessarily know what, but it's to the point where they can rest him. And you're right. This is a time of the season where they would rather have him healthy and ready to go, the last couple of weeks and in the playoffs, most importantly, because this guy has had this team on his back the majority of the year. And don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting Connor McDavid, but it has been Draisaitl who has been the offensive engine for this group. And that's the beauty of having those two guys. You got two thoroughbreds that can take the reins. One can lead while the other guy takes a rest, and maybe we're seeing a little bit of that. So he'll get a chance to heal up. It's too bad because this is a good test for the Oilers. I don't think we're going to – you didn't hear a lot of talk about that 6-0 loss in opening night today. It was
I'm sure
brought
game
up,
one isn't on everyone's minds right now. It's kind of in the far enough in the rearview mirror that I'm not sure will have a big effect on tonight's game.
It is game 69 tonight, just pointing that out. But nice. Yeah, exactly. It's been a while since we've seen the Jets. No, and Draisaitl, like, listen, this guy's been so good. He's a warrior. So obviously something's bothering him to the point where they're saying, all right, take a breather and let's make sure you're ready to go. And you know what, Huss, to further emphasize, that's the mantra from this coaching staff and the team is we just saw Mattias Ekholm basically have 2 weeks off. And Ekholm is 35 years old. I mean, he plays 20-plus minutes a night. He was at the Four Nations face-off, and he is the Oilers' best defenseman, and he just needed some time to rest. And he came back. He looked great the other night against Utah, scored a beautiful goal. Chris Knobloch was talking about, maintaining his minutes. He still wound up playing like 22. So these guys, with a little bit of rest, I think that could be, a bit of a weapon for this group, and kind of unfortunately seeing that with Draisaitl right now.
Well, it sounds like, as we mentioned, no Dry tonight. McDavid will be there. Where's he at right now? Because, I mean, listen, he obviously scored the winning goal in the Four Nations, which we'll remember forever. But even in that game, he didn't look like top-level McDavid. And then coming out of the tournament, had a really, really rough run, as did the team. Listen, I think we all know the Oilers will go as Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl take them and hopefully get some other guys chipping in. But, especially without Draisaitl, where's McD right now, and what should we expect from 97?
He was shot out of a cannon against Utah on Tuesday. I mean, that one goal, the set piece that he scored with like 4 seconds left in the first period, that was the dagger in that game. That thing was beautiful. Just absolute burner speed and cut right through the Utah defense. And I think he's starting to ramp back up. And you're right. Like, it hasn't been a Connor McDavid supernova type season, but he's still having a really good year. I think he's kind of in that same camp where he wants to finish strong, but more of setting the pace and not, burning up too much juice before the playoffs. And he too, he's played a lot of hockey and he's been a busy boy. And, in the summer, you go from winning or going to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final and winning the Western Conference to getting married, and then all of a sudden you're back at training camp. Like, it wears on anybody regardless of their age. And maybe a little bit of R&R for him as well could go a long way. But he looked fantastic the other night, and I think him and Draisaitl, and now we're seeing Hyman wake up. We're seeing Nugent Hopkins, who's got 6 points in his last 2 games, start to wake up. These guys are, they talk about not being able to just flip on the switch, but they're kind of flipping on the switch right now, Huss.
Listen, there's always something to talk about with the Oilers, and it's kind of been funny because this year for the Jets, it has basically been business as usual from that 6-0 win against the Oilers in game number 1. They started off 15-1. They had basically one 10-game segment where they were under 500 and then just picked up where they left off, and the record speaks for itself right now. The Oilers have been very different. And listen, for all the talk about McDavid and Draisaitl, you mentioned they're getting a bit more from Hyman right now, who had a brutal start to the season, probably the big reason why he wasn't on the Four Nations team. And Nuge, after a 100-point season, was very quiet. But it's the periphery of this lineup that I think has generated the most conversation, especially when you think about what happened in the offseason. I mean, losing Holloway and Broberg because you got all horny on July 1st and signed Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner, both guys that have not had major contributions so far, certainly ramps up the pressure on management. But they did make a couple moves at the deadline. Now, what's the latest on Frederick? I mean, what can you tell us about him and where he'll slide in? And then tell us about Jake Waldman and how he's looked as an Oiler since coming over from the Sharks.
All right, I'll do the Frederick part first. Chris Knobloch said the other day, don't expect him to play this week. We haven't seen him take part in a morning skate or a practice just yet, so that's kind of an indicator where that ankle's at. Now, when he gets in, we anticipate him probably being a middle six winger. Some people are speculating, does he play with Draisaitl? Some are saying, hey, he'd fit better on the third line. Regardless of where he goes in, he's going to be a welcome addition to this group. He's going to add sandpaper, willingness to go to the hard areas, something that the Oilers kind of don't have a penchant for or haven't been known for this year, although that's kind of turning around right now. And then, he's got that goal-scoring ability. They're hoping that he gets back to the guy that scored 17 and 18 in the last couple of years and not like the guy that's struggled to bury goals this year in Boston. So, probably still a week or two before we really have a good idea of when he comes back. And if he can get into games in April, the Oilers, I think, have 9 games in the month of April. That should be enough runway for a guy who's played the majority of the season. And then Jake Waldman, I'll just say this, simply, he's made the defense better. This guy is really good defensively. A lot of talk about his offensive ability, but he has been solid defensively. He blocks a lot of shots. He's not the biggest guy, but he's strong. He's in the right position. He moves well, and his shots get through. The puck gets through from the point. That's something that's kind of hampered the Oilers this year. Is we've had a bunch of shin pad assassins on the blue line all season long, including Evan Bouchard. And Waldman, in his few games as an Oiler, seems to get the puck through. So he's got that knack for offensive ability. And then on top of that, he plays sound defensively. So he has just straight up made this blue line good. And I'll even add the other element to all this that I didn't mention was he can play the right side, even though he's a left shot guy. And the bottom line is he's made the blue line stronger. He's created competition on this blue line. And Darnell Nurse has continued to play well. Ekholm is back. Bouchard's game seems to be coming around. And, they got a young guy in Ty Emberson who's kind of slowly making progress. Roy Stetcher's played hard when he's been in there. And then Brett Kulak has quietly put together a very sound season for this group. So what was a big glaring issue for the Oilers going into the year, I think they've kind of done a nice job to patch things up a bit and add some good pieces. And Waldman's going to be a big part of that.
I have to ask you about, your perspective on the Jets and, what Knobloch had to say about what Winnipeg's done so far. And if you heard anything from McDavid or the other Oilers about the challenge of a team that has been at the top of the standings pretty much all year coming into the arena tonight.
Yeah, lots of respect, and rightly so. A lot of respect for this Winnipeg Jets team. I'll even say this. I was joking with Mitch Clinton, Jets radio color guy, and I'm like, Mitch, what's it like just having nice things all season long and having nothing but positive stories? And he's like, yeah, it's really enjoyable. I'm like, oh, never happens here. But I mean, again, I think litmus test is a fair way to describe this game for the Oilers. Winnipeg, just from post to post, putting together just an outstanding season. I mean, you look at the moves that the Jets made at the deadline. I know they probably would have wanted to get some of the bigger name guys out there, but you see Tanev come back. I'm like, that's a good addition. Shen, that's a name that a lot of Oiler fans clamoring for a steady right shot D. We're bringing up, and the Jets go out and get them. So I think you get it's not so much about the big pieces and the big names. It's about the right pieces and the right guys to fit in to make your team championship caliber. And I think Kevin Cheveldayoff has done a good job of that. And consistency with this group. I mean, all the Ehlers stuff, I was surprised. We're talking about, is he wanting out? And I know that needs to be resolved at some point, but you look at this Winnipeg team and there seems like a ton of harmony. And that's something I envy, covering this Oilers team for the last 17 years. But, I wouldn't trade in this roller coaster ride for the world, but I wouldn't mind a nice, easy breezy 82-game season and then crazy playoffs.
Well, it is hilarious. I mean, I don't think there's any better example of the ups and downs of the Edmonton Oilers than last season. I mean, I'll never forget tuning into your post-game show on EST after that loss late November to the San Jose Sharks, where it seemed like, I mean, a lot of people had said, season over. And then later on, 16 straight wins, and the next thing you know, they're in the playoffs and they're going all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final.
Yep.
Aldo was there a hangover for this team from the playoffs? Often you see teams that do well, and listen, you can't go any further without winning than the Oilers did last year. And sometimes that hangs around a little bit. I mean, you've been watching this team all season long. I mean, will that make them better come this year's playoffs, or have they sort of been carrying it around a little bit for the season?
They definitely carried it around for October. There's no doubt about it. And it was said so many times, like, they don't want to use it as an excuse, and rightly so. Like, they said the right things, but you could just see it on the ice. You could get the vibe around here. And it wasn't just the team that you got that sense from. Us as media, we're like, oh my God, we're back already. The fan base, I'm talking to fans as I'm walking into the arena opening night, and a lot of the sentiment was, I don't know if I'm ready for a regular season game. Like, it just feels like we're here for the playoffs. And I think that everybody in and around the Oilers, fans, media, team included, felt that for the first month. Now, where things changed was early November. Edmonton, this team, they woke up, they got their game back. They started playing more of that Oilers style that we saw late last year. And it wasn't perfect. There were still some issues that needed to be taken care of, but they started to get results. They went on that 22-6-1 run, and all of a sudden you're like, there they are. They're awake now. And then they come out of the Four Nations face-off and looked sloppy and certainly had their struggles. Even a little bit before the Four Nations face-off, basically all of February was rough for this group. But now it feels like, there's the championship caliber team starting to awaken from its slumber. And so, reluctantly, you have to admit that there was a Stanley Cup Finals hangover, and how close the scene. Huss, honestly, I think we went from Game 7 of the Cup Final to the draft like 3 days later. Like, literally. That's how ridiculous the schedule was.
Well, and now they're talking about adding 2 more games potentially. I mean, next year, dude, there's not going to be a lot of quiet nights in the NHL like we had last night with just 2 games.
Right.
Because you're going to have an Olympic break and a break for the All-Star game, which, I mean, I don't know if there is a real need to do that. And certainly I think the season is too long to begin with. But exactly, if the changes mean they're making less money and the HRR goes down, it ain't happening. Tom Gazzola is with us. A very nice comment for you from one of our favorites, Phyllis in chat.
Phyllis. Hello, Phyllis.
Says, Tommy is fabulous at post-game shows. Somehow he always keeps things going. And you've had some doozies this year. I mean, both people fired up. I'm sure the game on the last game against Utah, everyone was ready to plan the parade again. But you never quite know what you're going to get from this club, and you never quite know what you're going to get on the EST post-game, depending on what happens on the ice.
Yeah, well, what's Forrest Gump saying? Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That's oil country in a nutshell. And Huss, like, we had some great post games when the Oilers missed the playoffs in 18 and 19, where I was like, whoa, is this for real? Is this how it is? And that got me ready for everything that we've experienced in the last 5 years. So thank you to Phyllis. And yes, I try to keep it on the rails as best as possible because as you know us, we have the nasty chat when people watch on YouTube, and that is something else. Like, I can't even keep track. Our text line is buzzing, and I think I try to keep an even keel. Now, I was one of those people that wrote this team off last year when they lost to San Jose, to tie San Jose for 32nd in the league that night. I think it was November 9th, 2023. I went into like a 10-minute diatribe about why this season was over. And I was more than happy to eat my words. But yeah, we have fun on the pre and post game show, but expect everything, all hands on deck, man, because some nights it could be nice, like it was against Utah. And then other nights it's just pure madness. And you're like, I need a cigarette and a beer. at the end of it.
How much is this team, like, the importance of gunning for first place? I mean, they're 2 back of Vegas right now. I'd like to see them win first, if for no other reason that we don't have to see Edmonton, LA again in the first round. Like, I don't think anybody wants to see that again.
No, and a lot of people around here feel the exact same way you do. I'm not going to lie. I like LA's media contingent. I enjoy when they're around. So if they're back, it's great. If they're not, that's fine too. But the importance of first in the division, it would kind of put the Oilers' money where their mouth is if they're able to lock down first or catch Vegas in the first place and then lock it down, because that was something that was discussed at the end of last year after they had lost Game 7 was, hey, we could have used a little bit more home ice advantage. That would have been nice. And, when a team that is at this iteration or a part of its cycle and in this winning championships window, says something like that, like, you expect them to go out and do it because they're at the peak of the league. So would it be the be all end all? Probably not, Huss, but would it be ideal, and would it kind of give them some validation and make them feel good? Maybe add some confidence? 100%.
Well, listen, buckle up, because it could be a rough post-game show tonight. I'm just saying, Tom.
I'm ready.
I'm interested to see what we get out of the Jets, because, I mean, for a team that has been so defensively structured all year, they got away from it against Vancouver. I imagine there was plenty of video done with this club over the last 24 hours, and they know the challenge, although a little bit of a different challenge without Leon Draisaitl, who is ducking Connor Hellebuck and choosing not to play tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. You hate to see it, Tommy. You hate to see it.
Yeah. No Kadri Leonard. I'm just saying that.
Try. I love it. Listen, Val, thanks so much for doing this. I know some WSTers will check in on you after the game tonight over on Edmonton Sports Talk, and it was great catching up with you on Hello Hockey. Give a bit of a plug for that, because I know on Saturday people are often looking to get some great hockey talk, and you and Belzy go all over, not just the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Huss. I appreciate that. Hello Hockey, it's on every Saturday at Edmonton Sports Talk, obviously. And if you're in Calgary, it's on Sportsnet Radio there. And then I know they play us a little bit on Sportsnet Radio in Vancouver, so it's syndicated. And yeah, it's not an Oilers show, so we like to spread it out. And you were great with the follow-up to the trade deadline. So Belzy, former first rounder, played on 4 teams in the NHL, played a bunch of years in Europe, has a huge Rolodex of connections. He was on that World Junior team in 2005, like the best World Junior team of all time. So we try to take advantage of that as much as possible. And we hit on all elements of hockey. Like we're watching the shift in, NCAA and the effect it's going to have on major junior.
Big time.
U Sport, here in Alberta, the ACAC, where we've got the Nadukes and SAIT and that other level of collegiate hockey and junior A especially. So we try to hit all angles of the game. We try to bring on really great guests. Dave Pagnotta is our Hello Hockey insider. And then we're fortunate to have great guests like yourself and others around the National Hockey League to make sure that people in Western Canada aren't just dialed into one team. We like to spread it out and make sure that they kind of stay on the up and up with everybody around the hockey world.
Tommy, great stuff, pal. Enjoy the game tonight, and whatever comes your way on the post-game show over at Edmonton Sports Talk. Let's do this again. We got one more game between these two clubs here in Winnipeg in a few weeks. Always love having you on when it's Jets Oilers, and we will cross our fingers that we get the Lock Shop Bowl. Dare to dream in the Western Conference Final. Edmonton, Winnipeg, guaranteed Canadian team in the Cup Final. Wouldn't that be cool? But lots of work for both teams to do before we get there. You have a good one tonight, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Huss. Wish me luck. I'm going to go fight Chris Dingman right now.
Dingman, minus 10,000 favorite. There's Tom Gazzola. Of course, you can check him out on the Hangout on Edmonton Sports Talk after the Nielsen Show in the mornings. Oil Stream with Dustin and Hello Hockey on Saturdays. And, of course, the post-game show along with my guy Hernan Salas, who's back from the Oilers from his time with the Elks, and doing afternoons as well with Gager before the Reed Wilkins show. Great stuff with Tom Gazzola. Paying attention to the madness here, folks. If you've seen me sort of rubbernecking a few times, we're down to the final minute. And unfortunately, it looks like the dream for Simon Hildebrand and the High Point Panthers is going to come to an end in the first round. They're down 10 with 38 seconds left. They were 7.5-point dogs, though. Covering the spread is still not out of the question. But I don't think they'll be moving on. And that will be a blemish on my bracket. Listen, we're going to have Brandon Rewucki jump on. We're going to hear from Connor McDavid in just a second as well ahead of this game tonight. But let's thank Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto, synonymous with Winnipeg, is a company founded right here in the Peg, headquartered in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast with locations from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and 3 locations here in Manitoba, with 2 in the city, Panet Road and Portage Avenue West, and of course, the Brandon location as well. If you pop into Princess Auto, you're going to find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete those projects on your list or start something new for spring and summer is waiting for you at Princess Auto. And of course, if you can't make it down in store, you can check out all the great deals and shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Speaking of great Winnipeg companies, Wallace & Wallace has been the leaders in fencing and overhead doors since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's done a number on your old one, give them a call. They've got you covered with welded wire, ornamental, chain link, wood fences, and the leader in temporary fencing as well. And if you've got garage door issues or need a new garage door, they got the largest selection in town, meaning one perfectly to match your home and add value to it at the same time. Give them a phone call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will be happy to pop down and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lowson Crescent, just off of Kenniston. And hey, speaking of spring, guys, if you need to up your menswear game heading into spring with wedding season just around the corner and grads, now's the time to get down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street. Custom suits beginning at $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, the best selection of menswear accessories in town, and some great deals, especially if you've got a graduate in the family and need a suit for the big day that they can take into the next chapter of their lives. Special deal right now for Manitoba grads. Suits starting just over $400, and with the purchase of a suit, F will hook you up with a free custom shirt and tie for the big day. And of course, they're the #1 spot for wedding parties as well, with great discounts for wedding parties when you get your suits at F Apparel. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown, and check them out online. That's EPHapparel.com. You can also book a fitting online as well. Just before we bring Michael Remis back in, hey, a big shout out to our friends at Canadian Club, Canada's #1 Canadian whiskey, the original since 1848. While we try to keep a lot of things Canadian, Canadian Club has been the standard for over 150 years. When you pop by your Manitoba liquor marts and are looking for Canadian whiskey, make it the best. Canadian Club 100% rye, Canadian Club Classic. It's all waiting for you at your local Manitoba liquor marts, and won't be long before we're sipping on CC and Gingers at Princess Auto Stadium this summer for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. All right, let's get Michael Remis back in here. And it is a final. High Point out. They lose 75-63. They don't cover. But, man, I don't know how much you were able to catch of that, Remo, but very cool to see Seabear star, former Bison star Simon Hildebrand get a little taste of the madness, had a couple great rebounds, fighting for balls, did hit a three-pointer. But the 13 seeds are the second team out of the tourney after their loss by 12 to the Purdue Boilermakers.
Yeah, very cool to be on, national TV in the U.S., on TSN in Canada. They did tweet out a highlight of him Simon making a 3-point shot as well, to cut the lead close in the second half. So pretty awesome. It was great to have Simon on last week saying what a dream come true it was for him. Didn't play in the March Madness tournament, but tough going out in the first round. But what, did they end up covering or no?
No, they didn't, unfortunately.
Purdue's they're a pretty good team, has Purdue. So nothing to hang your head on.
13 seeds often, make it close, and it really was close throughout the game. I mean, it was the end of the first half that sort of sunk them. They were down 10 and then just weren't really able to chip away at that lead in the second half. So congratulations to that team. One thing, do you remember when Simon was on last week and he was telling us about High Point University?
Yeah, he sounded like he loved the education he was getting. He loved all the facilities that they had to offer. It seemed like it was a tough decision for him, and he had to find the right situation when choosing to go to NCAA.
Yeah, and I did a little digging. The guys on Pardon My Take were talking about it today. I mean, it sounds like it's like this college utopia. I mean, they built a campus that is like University Disneyland. There's 15 pools there. Heard PFT saying as part of their meal plan, they have an ice cream truck on campus, and you can just roll up and get ice cream at any time. There's a steak restaurant where the students can go there once a month for free as part of their thing. It sounds like he's living it up pretty good. And of course, making it to March Madness in his first year in the NCAA, he will have another year with High Point next season. Unfortunately, that means that as of right now, he won't be able to play for the Sea Bears. By the way, if you are a Sea Bears fan or want more information on the upcoming CEBL championships, check yesterday's show. We did have CEBL Commissioner Mike Morreale on with us. Brandon's going to join us in a few minutes. But before that, let's hear from Connor McDavid. And we kind of cracked earlier that the new prime minister is an Oiler fan. And you know what? I guess if you had a new job where you could really flex, Remo, why wouldn't you go and get a skate in with your favorite hockey team right after taking over?
Exactly. Mark Carney said,
Nothing else going on.
He said, hey, I'm the leader of this country right now. And what's the number one thing that I've always wanted to do? Well, go on the ice for the morning skate with my hometown team. And he's not some scrub hockey player, Huss. He's got an elite prospects profile. It's like the number one search profile right now. I played for.
Is it?
I made that up. I'll have to check. But you know how Hockey DB has that. And once in a while, Brian Hayes will be number one on there. But he played for Harvard. He was third string goalie. Got into one game, made a couple stops, and yes, he was a goalie. But I mean, what better way, Huss, to show how much power you have than saying, "Hey, what's the one thing I want to do? Skate with the hometown hockey team." And there he was. It is interesting to hear about all those security and stuff that goes on into that. I'll give a personal story. I remember I was at Lollapalooza one year, and Malia Obama was beside me during one of the shows, and I was like, my wife's like, I think that's Malia Obama, and I was like, if that's her, there's going to be 5 dudes behind her that look very out of place right now. And I turned around, and yes, there were 5 dudes in
earpieces
and Hawaiian shirts and earpieces following her as she went up to the front for Outcast. So. A lot goes into it. So, sure, if you're Huss, I don't know what you would do first day as prime minister, but I imagine going on the ice for a morning skate with the Jets.
Yeah, thank you, Canadians. I'm proud to be your leader. Now, I'm sorry, I'm on my way to Canada Life Center. I'm going to take a few rips around with Scheifele and Hellebuck and my favorite hockey team. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? I guess there's certainly nothing else going on for them to do. We're joking about that. We won't get political, but. Anyways, a bit of a different morning down at the morning skate with the prime minister there. And yet the person everyone still wanted to talk to is maybe the prime minister of the National Hockey League and Connor McDavid. Now, it's Leon Draisaitl who's been the man this year for the Edmonton Oilers. He's the favorite for the Hart Trophy, slightly ahead of our own Connor Hellebuck. But as we saw in the Four Nations with the game on the line, McDavid is always a difference maker and is playing pretty well over this last week as the Oilers got out of that little mini slump. McDavid spoke earlier today, and he was asked about the Prime Minister coming to Edmonton and being on the ice this morning with the squad.
Looks like he was a goalie with those goalie skates, but yeah, obviously nice to have him here. He's an Oilers fan, lifelong Oilers fan, and Oilers fans are welcome here for sure. So, definitely a unique thing. Yeah.
Twist his arm to put him in net at all, or what?
What's that?
I said you couldn't twist his arm to put him in net at all? Or
I'm not sure the security detail would like that very much, but no, I mean, obviously, obviously a unique thing to have to have him here. Cool to meet him. As I said, he's a lifelong Oilers fan, and you know, those are always welcome in the room here.
You know, there's Connor McDavid on the Prime Minister coming in. Reem, I can't, I can't help but imagine what it would be like if Trump was a hockey guy and he went for a skate with an NHL team. You know what it would be like? It would be like Putin, where they like force everyone to just like let him skate around everybody and score goals. And then he could come in and say that he could have been an NHL star back if he had decided to play hockey. Probably a little different than the scene today in Edmonton with the new Prime Minister Mark Carney putting on the goalie skates and getting out for a rip in the morning skate with the Edmonton Oilers. Beyond the Prime Minister's visit in the AM, big hockey game tonight between the Jets and the Oilers. Here's what McDavid had to say about tonight's tilt in Edmonton.
Obviously, it's been a work in progress all year, just like everyone's game is. You know, obviously finding a way to get 3 wins is good. You know, we've kind of done it different ways. Well, the first 2 similar ways, but you know, nice to have some offense last game. Obviously, a great test tonight. You know, Winnipeg's the best team in the league. That'd be a good test.
I mean, a great test for the Jets, too, to get back to their defensive structure, because if they were as loose as they was against the Vancouver Canucks, that probably means a big night for the guy that we just heard from. Here's a little bit more from McDavid on tonight's opponents, the first-place Jets.
Yeah, they're deep all over. They got good forwards, back end's big and strong, and then you got to go up against the best goalie in the world. So you know, there's a reason they're where they are in the standings. It's not for luck. It's not for anything other than that they're a great team, and it'll take a good effort to beat them.
All right, so some high praise from Connor McDavid for the Winnipeg Jets. Well, with all that praise for Winnipeg, Connor McDavid was asked if this is sort of a measuring stick for the Oilers as they get closer and closer to beginning the journey to try to get 16 wins.
Obviously, it's a good test for us. Keep saying that, but you know, at the same time, we view ourselves as a great team in here, and we expect to win these games as well. You know, it's not. You know, we're not coming in here feeling like the underdog or anything like that. You know, we expect to win games no matter who the opponent is. So. Yeah.
All right, so there's Connor McDavid, 8 o'clock puck drop tonight. And for those of you in the city, join us at Boston Pizza City Place along with our friends at Little Brown Jug for a WST watch party for Jets Oilers tonight. Hopefully we'll see you there. Let's welcome in Brandon Rewucki and get ready for Jets Oil tonight. Rew, what's going on? How are you? Hold on a sec. We got you muted.
Yeah, it's good. Good now.
Okay, perfect. What's up? How are you?
Yo, still doing good. Yeah, ready to get into it. It's going to be a beauty tonight.
Did you have a high point going to the Final Four and busting your bracket right out of the gate?
Yeah, I'm 0-2 right out of the gate, so par for the course. I mean,
Winnipeg guys, we had to take high point, right? For
he
Simon
went
Hildebrand?
and Simon Hildebrand went to my alma mater, MBCI, so I was all jacked up. He had a decent game at least. You know, he hit a 3. Looked pretty solid, but yeah, sometimes the big boys on some of those blue bloods it's a little too much for them to handle. But at least I found out he gets free ice cream at High Point University. So dude, I mean,
I heard that too. That place sounds well. And he came on the show last week saying, "Dude, like you guys got to check out this campus. I mean, it has been referred to like the Disneyland of universities. Yeah. They got like 15 pools. We were just talking about the ice cream truck and the restaurant, and he was saying that he really, really liked it and getting a great education there too. And of course, he will have another crack at this next year in his final year of eligibility. But unfortunately, that means no Sea Bears. But as far as this Jets game goes tonight, well, let's just hope that the team is a little more structured defensively as they've been all year than they were against Vancouver, because that could be bad news when you're going up an Oiler team, even without Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, and I mean, they were playing so well since Neil Pionk stepped out of the lineup too, right? That it was just this jarring, like, oh my gosh, this is the far cry from what we've seen as maybe one of the stingiest teams in the league. But it's just like sometimes those games happen, right? I mean, especially you go out west and sometimes when you switch time zones and things like that, you have a bit of an outlier performance. And I think that's what it was. Vancouver played great too. I mean, give them some credit. So like they were flying all night long. But it was a tough one. But again, nothing really to worry about. And you know what? Sometimes when you face a team as explosive as the Oilers off of the heels of a bad defensive game, it's like a smelling salts type of a game. Like it focuses you pretty quickly, because if you want to play like that against McDavid, he's going to put up 4 or 5 points against you. So I expect a much more stingy and focused and sharp defensive performance tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear on what the coaching staff will be going through with the guys through the video review of Vancouver. And listen, I mean, we should get right to this. If we want to talk about a line that has been as dependable, as consistent as maybe any in the league, it's been the Adam Lowry line with Appleton and Nito Niederreiter. Right now, though, offensively, they've been in a real funk, and then they've started going in the net the other way, getting burned on rush chances, some giveaways. This line has been off, I think, by any of the standards, especially their own, which has been very high. And we saw a move in the game against Vancouver, although it looks like they're going to go back and at least start with Old Faithful.
I mean, I don't know how much it gets talked about, really, how completely remarkable it is that the Jets don't tinker with their lines at all. This is not, a little bit unusual for teams in the NHL. This is unprecedented, what we're seeing, this level of continuity. I do have doubts as to why maybe they're being so strict in terms of these are our lines, this is what we're sticking with, because sometimes in a playoff series, as we saw last year against Colorado, things don't work according to plan. And if these guys don't have a whole lot of familiarity playing with anybody else other than their usual line mates, I don't know. I worry a little bit come playoff time if this, absolute faithfulness to being rigid with their lineup is going to hurt them in the end. And it's surprising they're going back to the well too, Huss, because, I mean, Brandon Tanev goes up on that Lowry line and immediately is the sole reason they score one of their goals on the night, and drives Elias Paterson nuts on that shift, and was the big reason why they were able to get a greasy one there. I mean, Iafallo all year long has played worthy of a top 9 spot. It's just there hasn't been a whole lot of opportunity for him to jump up the lineup. So, I mean, he's certainly worthy of getting a shot there. I'm a little surprised, but this has kind of been the MO all year. And I guess to Scott Arniel's credit, it's worked. Like, even when the top line has a bit of a downturn in performance, feels like right before they're about to get the plug, they come up with a 3-point effort. So this might be the last call sort of a thing for the Lowry trio, where it's like, right before you get ready to pull the plug, let's see if you have a big one against McDavid and company. So we'll see. But I do have some concerns about if this might bite them in the ass in a couple weeks' time.
Well, it's certainly, I mean, as far as tonight goes, it certainly feels like a real challenge to Appleton and Niederreiter, who just haven't been up to their standard. And, it's one thing to generate offense and to score goals. Those you hope will come. But that's a line that is controlled possession. They've spent a ton of time in the other team's end. And when that stops happening, then I think the coaches really do have to think about it. Now, they did make the change against Vancouver. I think the opportunity is for those guys to go in and maybe a little bit of a wake-up call. But certainly with what we saw in the Vancouver game, Brandon, at least when we're talking about the bottom 6, because I think the top 6 is pretty much etched in stone, I do think that we probably, over the course of these next 13 games, will see a few different looks. And it could be Brandon Tanev and Alex Iafallo being the first button to press with Adam Lowry if things aren't going well for Niederreiter and Appleton. But let's face it, for this team to win, because the fourth line has been awesome together. Like, those guys playing with Morgan Barron, I've absolutely loved. And they've been doing a lot of the things that the Lowry line has historically done. They just got to get those guys going again.
Yeah. And, I mean, you would think, too, any set of wingers outside of Morgan Barron are going to give you some kind of a good fourth line. Like, it's not the case where it's like we got to keep them together no matter what. It's just Barron has taken a bit of a leap here and seems to be quite the answer to having a big body on that fourth line there. So it's not even like I'd be worried about whoever suits up down there, because realistically, that has the potential to be like a decent third line for a lot of teams, let alone the fourth line there. But it gets into that whole interesting scenario that we've talked about a bunch, is just, what do you do with your middle six if it's going to be Scheifele, Velarde, and Connor for the foreseeable future? Because, the Nemestikov line's been solid to really good this last little stretch.
Oh, for sure.
But then we get into, come playoff time, you want Lowry to be the guy between them, and then the Swiss Army knife Vladdy can go between whoever else you need to, in the bottom six or the middle six, whatever you want to call it. I still feel like that is hovering over this team, and you wonder what's going to compel Scott Arniel to push that button, because you're right, where he's leaned on Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter for 99% of the season here. The Jets are in first place, so it's worked a lot of the time. But I wonder what's going to be the impetus to maybe officially pull the trigger on that move, because it was just a couple games. We haven't seen a whole lot of difference since then. But I still feel maybe it's not even the first round that he goes back to it. But I just wonder if maybe their backs are against the wall. That's ultimately the move that gets made, and it's a complete rejig of your middle six lineup.
You know what the funny thing is, just thinking about this game tonight and the fact that those guys got moved to the fourth line, and we're playing with Barron while Iafallo and Tanev moved up. Niederreiter is historically a very streaky scorer, and if he's getting his bad streak out now as we get closer to the playoffs, that'd be nice. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him, come out of this with a 3-point night or score 2 goals in a game, because we've seen them be able to do that, and they have, for the most part, been that line all year long. It's just been a real cold streak, especially for Niederreiter, who, is one of the, he basically adds an extra level to that a lot of third lines don't have, does everything that you want him to do, but it also has historically been a guy that pretty much scores 20 in his sleep.
Yeah, and important to remember, too, he also gives a bit of a different element of size out there on the flank, which the Jets don't always have a ton. It's him and Velarde, really, as far as like the actual big boys. They've got some physical guys, but he's one of the few that brings some size there. With him, it's more, I would be more so worried about, is he generating chances? Because he does the majority of his scoring, within 8 inches of the net, give or take a couple there, right? Like it's all about greasy, nasty sort of offensive output for him. And I don't know if we've seen the number of chances that you would probably feel happy about if you're the Jets coaching staff, with as far as what's Nino has been generating as of late. So it could just be, this is one of those things where it's a wake-up call. Could be one of those things where, look, the season's long as hell, and the guy in his mid-30s is just having a bit of a tough time right now. Could be a lot of those factors, but they just, whoever it is, and pushing the excuses aside, there needs to be a level of production that's acceptable there. Nobody's asking for 45, 50 points from the third line, but it's like you said there, 20 points, 15 some odd assists, and we're going to be happy with what you're paying. And there's just been too much of a drop to have that ignored. I think that's why we saw maybe the first steps of a potential rejig on that lineup there.
Well, and listen, especially when Tanev and Iafallo were playing the way that they are right now. And in some ways, I almost thought it wasn't fair to Morgan Barron, because I think Barron has been great in between those guys, and they have actually been really looking good. But we know how important Adam Lowry is. You want him to get going. I know he'll be ready to go for the playoffs. That is one thing I don't think we'll have any doubt. But where those lines are at, and who will sort of prove themselves to be that guy that Scott Arniel can lean on for significant bottom 6 minutes. And I think when you look at the way the team's built right now, all 3 of the players on the fourth line, I think, are making a case that they can be used a little bit more in more interesting situations. As far as the blue line goes, Neil Pionk's out for week to week right now. Although we did hear that from Mike McIntyre that he was riding the bike today, did not have anything on his leg, was walking without a limp, which is positive. But holy smokes, I go back to last weekend. The game against Dallas, the Luke Shen factor, planting Rantanen in the net in the first period, and really no traffic in front of Connor Hellebuck for the game. But in addition, the way that Dylan Samberg has sort of jumped into the play and taken advantage of maybe more offensive opportunities with, of course, a huge goal against Dallas and then the winner in OT against Seattle. Just thoughts on the blue line without Pionk, maybe last game notwithstanding, because I think there was a few moments, not necessarily on that pair, but the top pair that was somewhat uncharacteristic for what Morrissey and particularly Dylan DeMello would normally drop for the Jets.
Yeah. Dallas, Seattle is a little more fun to talk about. I mean, it's funny because I came on Thursday afternoon and we talked about Pionk being out, and you were like, hey, let's forget putting Miller or this puck mover, that puck mover beside Sam. Let Samberg be the guy. Pretty good call. It's worked out pretty well for him. And sometimes he gives some of these young guys additional responsibilities, and they show you a little bit more than you might have expected. And I mean, those two games in particular, he was, and it's not like, no slouches on either side there. I mean, you had Thomas Harley for Dallas. Brandon Montour skating up and down the ice for Seattle, and I thought Samberg was by far the best defenseman on the ice in both of those games. I mean, he was just tremendous. And he's making himself a lot of money. The more and more these performances start to stack up on top of each other, and he might add another extra zero by the time the playoffs end up winding down there. But he's really been so impressive, and kind of surprisingly, formed a nice bit of chemistry quickly with Luke Schenn. So I'm intrigued to see how those two continue to play out moving forward. And it's interesting too, because so far, Dylan DeMello's been the one tasked alongside Josh Morrissey to close out games. Luke Schenn hasn't been given that nod just yet. DeMello did a good job the other night of that. But I mean, Samberg he's a pillar. Like there's really no other way to put it. Like he has kind of maybe quietly transformed himself into a foundational piece in this Winnipeg Jets organization. And yeah, they've locked on the left side for the next half decade at least, which is a very comforting feeling for sure.
Hey, speaking of that, he is an RFA, and we've been kicking it around with the why not question of the day all week about what a Samberg contract looks like. Let's assume that the Jets make a big push to get him signed long term. If you had to predict what that contract looks like right now, where are you at?
I mean, it should be a minimum of 6 years from Winnipeg. So, to me, he wants to, if he wants to stay, and his play on the ice has proven that he's a legitimate top four, and that's probably, not giving him enough credit, but like that level of a defenseman, then it's 7-8 years, and we'll figure out the rest. It's almost blank check time for me. Let's put it that way. I'll tell you how it's likely to go is that Kevin Cheveldayoff will say, unfortunately, Dylan, we can't go past Josh Morrissey's cap hit of, 6.25? We'd love to give you more, but we can't do it. Self-imposed cap. And his agent will say, that's adorable, but that contract was signed roughly 4 to 5 years ago. And the salary market has changed quite drastically since then. Look, to me, if it's a 7x7, that number might give sticker shock to some people. I would be all over that every day of the week, because he's taken his game to that kind of a level, like a Jacob Slavin light. So again, you get a high value contributor who you drafted and developed. This is not one of those guys that you try to nickel and dime and look at a short-term deal to bring the cap hit down. You basically do whatever it takes within reason to get him locked up long term.
I just don't think it'll take that much to get it done. I mean, just like when we talk about comparables, he had 18 points last year in 78 games. He's got 17 right now in 47. Now, I am 100% with you. So many of the things that Dylan Samberg does not necessarily show up in the goals, assists, and points. Although this weekend, I think, was a pretty good glimpse into the future of what he might be capable of. But the bottom line when negotiating contracts is that is a huge determining factor. And for a guy that has been more of a stay-at-home player, can you go in and ask for, I guess you can ask for whatever you want, but I've kind of thought that Morrissey number, just because the offense is much lower with Dylan so far, might actually make a whole lot of sense. I mean, I think he's certainly deserving of more than 5.5. I think, you could make certainly an argument at 6 and maybe more than 6 if you're getting a couple more of those UFA years and just locking him in on that side, regardless of the offensive numbers that he puts up, because he does so many other things that are important to winning hockey games.
Yeah, it's one of those. I mean, it's more of a new age type of a deal, I think, because X amount of years ago, you'd point and say, you're playing, oh, okay, good. You're playing 20 minutes a night, 18 points. That's not a whole lot. We'll give you $4 million. It's a lot more nuanced conversation now, but at the same token, like NHL GMs do typically pay big money deals to defensemen based on time on ice and point totals, even though impact doesn't necessarily correlate exactly with those, right? So, I'm fascinated to see what the number's going to be. I guess my point would be I wouldn't feel super negative if it was a contract that got closer to $7 million per season, because I think as far as what he brings on the ice in terms of impact is as valuable as, and maybe he's not quite there yet, like another year or two to be put amongst those names, but he's performing on a similar trajectory to a Jacob Slavin, to a Mark-Edward Vlasic in his glory days over there in San Jose. And I mean, those guys deservedly got paid some pretty big bucks, even though the point totals weren't there. So I'm intrigued to see what it's going to be like. But I do know Chevy is going to use the Morrissey contract as a self-imposed cap. I don't think the Sandberg representatives will hold a similar mindset there, but how that battle plays out is fascinating to me.
Listen, it's going to be hilarious. I mean, to be a bug on Larry Simmons' wall when they go through all this. I'll say this. I guarantee you that the Slamberg representatives are going to be coming in with all sorts of analytic numbers and all sorts of, like, well, wait, how many points did he get? And it'll go back and forth, and then they'll shake hands.
Bring out the laptops, boys. We got our case here.
It'll be a bit. Brandon Rewucki's with us. You can check out his content over at Skates and Plates. Obviously, we've got this big tilt tonight between the Jets and Oilers. Both of these teams very safe when it comes to making the playoffs. Let me ask you, Brandon, right now. I mean, it is wild. The Sens and Habs are in the wild card spots as we go into tonight's action in the East. And in the West, it's the Wild and the Vancouver Canucks. And oh my God, is that a monster game tonight between Vancouver and St. Louis? What is your where are you at right now with the like? Put it this way: are the Sens in your mind? And if they are, how do you handicap the 8th spot in both of the conferences as we get into the final 12-13 games?
Yeah, Ottawa to me is borderline shoe-in territory now. They're also the best of the wild card contending teams as well.
Yeah,
they got the most points. I think they're the best team by a long shot as well. I think they're going to scare somebody in round 1, so I've got them in for sure. Montreal is so tough because they are one of the biggest roller coaster teams I can remember in quite some time. Like they are just, they're either red hot or they're absolutely ice blue cold. So it's like there's no real consistency from them in 10-game samples. So it's like they look great now, but it's just as likely that they drop 6 of 7 in their next bit. But you look at the East, the Rangers put forward maybe the most pathetic effort I've seen all season long against Calgary.
What a joke that was. They deserved to get shredded the way that they did. I think they had 13 shots in the whole game.
Was the whole hockey world watching that game? Like, it was just like everybody. I had people calling it. My dad's like, "Are you watching this?" Like, he was so mad. Everyone was just mad at the Rangers playing so terribly in a must-win game as Calgary is on the second end of a back-to-back. So, like, I think Montreal might get in just because the rest of the teams below them are so poor at the moment. Maybe Columbus can pull off a late charge here. But we might see all Canadian teams sneak in. The one thing I'll say, though, and this game against Vancouver is maybe going to go the longest way in determining that, is that the Blues have a cupcake schedule down the stretch.
Oh, my God.
So they win this one tonight. I don't know what the percentages are like and things like that, but I think that puts them in the driver's seat if they can take down the Canucks. But, hey, Vancouver looked awesome against Winnipeg on Tuesday. So maybe they're bottling something right now. I don't know.
Listen, if you're a Canuck fan, you have to hope that is kind of the blueprint moving forward, because they had just come off home losses to Utah and Montreal that made it close. Okay, here, Remis has it. This is a huge game for the Canucks. If they beat the Blues in regulation, their playoff chances go up 15.5% to 52. If they lose in regulation, it goes down 12.5%.
Wow.
To 24.9. So essentially, we're talking about a 27% difference from where they'll be if they win to if they lose, and very similar to the Blues. They get to 53% if they win. They go down to 25%. So essentially, we know it's just a matter of which one of these teams is going to be 25%, which one will have a better than 50-50 shot to make it if this game ends in regulation tonight.
It's amazing. That's what I love this time of year. And then Utah's still kind of hanging around too. So I think I'll go with the Blues. This is kind of scary. Like when the Blues do this, maybe you don't want to face the Blues in round one if they find a way to sneak into a wild card spot. So it's a pretty impressive turnaround, though. I mean, man, Monty might have a case for a top five as a top five coach in the NHL. Like wherever he goes, it's just 100 plus points either seasons or on pace to do so. He's struck gold again out there in St. Louis.
Well, they're 6 games out. Now, the thing about St. Louis is that they've played 69 games. Vancouver, also at 75 points, is there on account that they played one less game. A home win, and the Blues are about a -140 favorite tonight, would vault them into the wild card. And then Calgary's got a huge game tonight against New Jersey. I mean, if they can sort of build off that win and what they are able to do against the Rangers, all of a sudden Calgary gets right back in there. And then Utah, after getting killed by the Oilers in their last game, they've got Buffalo tonight. That is a must-win game for Utah. It'd be interesting to see if we get a team or two that sort of falls back and it becomes a 2 or a 3-horse race, or whether all 4 of these teams are going to be in right up until the end. But it is certainly going to be fun. And with the Jets playing the way they have been and where they are in the standings, it's even more fun to scoreboard watch right now, because we're already thinking about potential playoff matchups for the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Brandon, great stuff, buddy. Enjoy the game tonight. And we'll look forward to catching up next week as we get closer to throwing the whites on for the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Sounds good. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk soon.
You got it. All right. There is Brandon Rewucki. Just coming off that conversation with Brandon, let me throw this to the chat for the why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. As we sit here heading into the end of March and April, most teams have anywhere between 12 and 15 games left in the season. Who are your second wildcard teams in both conferences? In the West, you'll be choosing between Vancouver, St. Louis, Calgary, and Utah. And let's assume, for the sake of this question, that Ottawa is in at the top wild card. Can the Habs hang on? Will it be the New York Rangers? Will it be the Islanders, who, in fact, are just 3 points back? They have the even 15 games left in the season. Or the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have that identical record. Looks pretty good for Montreal right now. But let us know in the chat who's getting the second wild card in both of those spots. Let me put that to you, Remis. With about 15 games left, there still is a lot of hockey to be played and a lot of points up for grabs. Who do you like in the East and who do you like in the West?
Yeah, I think the Blues seem to be like repeating what happened in 2019, where they fired the coach. Montgomery comes in. Binnington is playing very hot from the Four Nations and recapture that. So I think I like the Blues. Sorry, Vancouver. I mean, the Blues, you look at all the teams in the gunning for a wild card. They're the only team with a positive goal differential at +3. I know Minnesota -4, but they have so many injuries. They are on a 2-game win streak. Vancouver, just a lot of off-ice stuff going on there, although they seem to have that under control. And Dustin Wolf drag Calgary in? I don't think so. So it seems like Minnesota's going to be in. I would pick the Blues. And then in the East, I mean, could we see I mean, Ottawa and Montreal get into the playoffs.
That would be awesome if they did. And it would probably be Washington Habs. And then I'm just hoping that Ottawa gets the number 1 seed and the Florida Panthers win, because we could have Tkachuk versus Tkachuk, Senators and Panthers in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, what about Leafs? Could we see Leafs Sens in the first round as well?
Yeah, if the Leafs win the division, absolutely. And they're just, they're tied with Florida right now with even amount of games played. So, I mean, that is certainly on the table. And actually, yeah, that might be just as good, if not better, than Tkachuk versus Tkachuk, getting that Battle of Ontario back up. And listen, Ottawa has done very well against the Leafs so far this season. They just won in Toronto on Saturday night. So that might be a tough one. Listen, we're going to hear from the Jets in just a minute, but let's see what people are saying for our question of the day down in Fans First. Fan feedback. Of course, fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number 1 spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no fees, folks. If you go to fansfirst.ca, you look at tickets, what you see is what you pay, nothing added on after the fact. And if you've got extra tickets for a game that you're looking to sell, great customer service, immediate payment the first business day after the game. I know it's been a favorite of season ticket holders when they've had to get out. Let's see what people are saying. Darth Skater. Darth Skater's going with Vancouver and the New York Islanders. Interesting. Have not heard a lot of love for the Islanders. But again, we'll get to this tonight in the Coolbet lines. But a massive game. We talked about that Vancouver game against the Blues. Montreal in New York against Patrick Roy and the Islanders. Must-win game for New York if they want to legitimately get right into it. So that is an interesting one. And Bobby B is thinking Minnesota gets the first one and St. Louis. And then he's got the Habs grabbing that last spot along with the Sens. Johnny Gaudreau Forever KQ says, Tkachuk brothers fight each other? We'll be talking about that. Some people say they will for sure. Others say that they won't. Running Man's got Montreal and Vancouver. Darth Skater, Montreal is going to blow a tire, which is certainly part of the possibilities. Keep your fan feedback coming in the chat on the playoff seeds and the wild card spots. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today at fansfirst.ca. All right. Don't forget, tonight we're getting together, Boston Pizza, Garden City, 8 o'clock puck drop up on McPhillips. Hopefully we'll see you there. The Jets have finished their skate today, and Scott Arniel spoke afterwards, and obviously he'll be looking for a big bounce back after a pretty disappointing game for his squad in Vancouver. Here's Arnie on the Jets' ability this season to bounce back after losing.
Obviously, you take out the parts that you need to learn from. We do a good job of kind of looking over it real quick and then move on to the next opponent. There's too many games. It happens too fast, especially with the Four Nations. It seems like you're playing every other day. So, you can't stress on what happened before. You got to move forward. So, and it's what we weren't happy about Vancouver. Talked about it, looked at it. Now we got to get ready for Edmonton.
For the Winnipeg Jets tonight, and what a test, even without Leon Draisaitl. When 97's out there, going to need to be at your best defensively, and that has been the foundation of the Jets' success so far this year. We were talking with Michael, with Brandon, about how this lineup is going to look tonight after the Lowry line was broken up against Vancouver, and he ended up playing with Brandon Tanev and Alex Iafallo. It looks like Arnie's going to go back to Nino and Appleton with Adam Lowry, as they've been pretty much the entire season. Here's what he had to say about getting that third line back together and what he'll be looking for tonight.
You know what? We talked to those guys, just kind of they knew they have to be a little bit better. And, they've the last couple of years there, they've done a pretty good job, against some of the top people in Edmonton. So put them back, they know now what they need to do. And, just sometimes in a game you're looking for a spark, and we kind of got one with making that switch. We got a quick goal from Lau and them. So, they know what their responsibilities are, and I'm sure they'll be better tonight.
when you have a veteran guy like Nino who's been in the league such a long time, he's had scoring slumps before. But talking to him today, he admitted there's all kinds of frustration there. Like, what do you as a coach, what can you do? Do you let a veteran guy kind of try and figure it out a little more on his own than, say, a younger player?
No, I think that, we try to, encourage them. And the thing that I always talk about is, are you doing the other things, the other aspects of the game? He's a power forward, and is he doing those things nightly? And that's winning battles, that's getting to the net, being strong on the walls, and, and spend a lot more time on the inside of the ice. And, I think if you do that and you do it enough times, that it'll bounce your way. And he scores a lot of goals around that net front. And nice to see him get a greasy one again and get off and running again.
All right, so there's Scott Arniel on the third line going back together tonight, and we'll see how that goes, or whether another change is needed. But you really want to get Nino Niederreiter clicking again, and maybe he can get a streak on the other side after being kind of ice cold for the last 12, 15 games. Listen, no Leon Draisaitl cannot be a good thing for the Edmonton Oilers. He is the favorite for the Hart Trophy for a reason right now. Although the other guy on the other side of the net's going to have something to say about that. But Scott Arniel just asked for his response to seeing an Oiler lineup tonight that likely won't have 29 in the middle.
Yeah, he's having a fantastic year, but at the end of the day, we certainly have a ton of respect for everybody else that's on this team. It isn't, we know that there's great players in this league and on each team, but, we're not driven by, 2 or 3 players. It takes our whole group to get us to where we need to get to, and Edmonton's no different. Their last 3 games have been real strong, and who they have in the lineup tonight, they're still going to be a tough out, and, we got to make sure that you're right through that middle of the ice. They got an attack game, one of the best in the league, especially analytically. They're a real top-end rush team. We got to be real good about it. We weren't great in Vancouver in that department. It was one of the things we talked about. We need to be a lot better tonight.
Yeah, I mean, a great point from the coach on, the rush chances that killed the Jets against the Vancouver Canucks. You cannot be letting, even without Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid to run like that, and they'll be focused on that this evening. I know it was game number 1, but with the Jets and the Oilers playing tonight, it's always fun to look back to the way the season started with that 6-0 win over the Oilers. Here's Arnie looking back on the team's first meeting this season.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It seemed like it, training camp, that seems so distant now after you get through all this. Like I said, it just seems like this year's been so much longer, and I don't even play the games, but just with that 4 Nations, that break in between, and the amount of games that we've had to play in a very short period of time, everybody's seeing 4 games a week, and it just, it's nice. We have obviously playing these guys. It's always they're always great games, and I don't expect anything different tonight.
Yeah, and just final one for me. When you look back in hindsight, clearly that season opening win here propelled you guys onto a pretty nice start, 15-1. Like, that kind of established a bit of a template right off the hop, right?
Yeah, it certainly got us running the right way, especially being on the road. But at the end of the day, that was a long time ago too. So lots of change for both sides, and I just think that it's a whole new ball game. You start over, like we mentioned. We weren't good in Vancouver the other night. Now we got to make sure that we bounce back with a better performance tonight.
All right, so there's head coach Scott Arniel after the morning skate tonight. Hellebuck going, no lineup changes, and Lowry back in the middle of Appleton and Nino Niederreiter to start the game. That means Morgan Barron will be centering Brandon Tanev and Alex Iafallo. Let's hear from Josh Morrissey. He looked back at the way this season started in Edmonton with that big 6-0 win.
Yeah, I mean, that's, seems like years apart, right? So I think, it's first game of the year, I think it was, and obviously, the first few games of the year are always feeling out process. So, no, I don't think there's any stock put in that one.
In terms of you guys obviously looking to bounce back from Vancouver, you guys have been so good at just kind of parking games, whether it's win or loss. Obviously, you lean into that tonight. Just what do you expect from Edmonton, who's on a 3-game win streak of their own?
Yeah, obviously, we know the type of team they have over there, obviously, and, I think for us it's about getting back to doing the things that we do well, what's made us successful this year, and kind of what's, made us a tough team to play against, good defensive team, and, also a team that can, put up 3, 4, 5 goals. So, I think just getting back to what we do. We saw some video this morning on some areas we can clean up, and that will be the main focus for us tonight is worrying about getting back to our game.
Yeah, getting back to their game. That is exactly what the Winnipeg Jets are looking for, because they were off it a little bit against, maybe more than a little bit against the Vancouver Canucks. Here's just a little bit more from Morrissey about the game in Vancouver and getting back to Jets hockey tonight for Edmonton.
I think it's relying on the structure, right? I think for us, we're a team that's built with depth, and we try to rely on our overall team game, good defensive game, which I think gives you a chance most nights to win. Certainly when you have goaltending like we have from Helly and also Combs, that makes a big difference as well. But I think it's as a team, relying on the strength of our group and our special teams and all of those things. So we've got a great leadership group here, and I think that's helped us prepare and be as consistent as possible throughout the year.
All right, so there's Josh Morrissey. The Jets' schedule is going to lighten up a little bit, and of course they are coming back home on the weekend. The Buffalo Sabres here on Sunday, Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals on Tuesday, and then our final WST game of the month of the season. We sold out our original allotment. We got more added, and we are down to only 5 tickets remaining with us in Section 316. So would love to have you join us for our final game of the month. We are 5-0, looking to go 6-0. What you're going to want to do is go to winnipegjets.com/WST. Click on the buy now, go to the Jersey game, grab your tickets. And again, every ticket includes early access as well as a free drink, which will be executed through your Jets 360 app. So if you haven't already, don't wait, because once these 5 are gone, they're gone. Join us next Friday, Canada Life Center, for the Jets and the New Jersey Devils in the WST section for our final game of the month as we look to finish up perfectly. Hey, speaking of that game and, of course, the playoffs, time to make a trip down to Royal Sports and get ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, the biggest selection of Jets merchandise, and I know they're going to be throwing the whites out very soon if they're not up already. And, of course, all the jerseys, which can be customized with your favorite player's name and number. In addition to the biggest selection of Jets gear, it got new stuff coming in for the upcoming Bomber season. Of course, NHL, Major League Baseball with the Blue Jays about to get going next week, international soccer, and so much cool stuff on the Kings Skate Snow and Surf side, like their massive Yeti section, sunglasses, and so much more. You got to see it to believe it. Pop down and see them. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And while we're looking forward to next Friday, one more time with the WST crew at the arena tonight, for the second time this year, we're going to be doing a watch party. Figured what better game? Oilers, Jets, all-Canadian matchup, one anthem. So join us tonight at Boston Pizza, Garden City, out on McPhillips, where we're teaming up with Little Brown Jug to put on a WST watch party. We'll have some fun, trivia, and games in between periods with some great prizes from Little Brown Jug and Boston Pizza. And most of all, getting together with a bunch of Jet fans to have a great time watching, hopefully, a big win for the visitors tonight. So if you don't have plans already, you know where to be tonight. Boston Pizza, pick a player games, and much more throughout the night. Hope to see you there. And, of course, we're doing it with Little Brown Jug. Little Brown Jug now available at select Boston Pizzas, including Boston Pizza Garden City. So we'll be hoisting a few 1919s tonight. Hope to see you there. We are going to do a Sport Manitoba segment and just check in with John Waldman about upcoming nominations for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. But before we do that, getting ready for tonight, a big cheers to our great partners in Manitoba's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones. The ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
All right, it's time for another It Takes a Community to Play segment for our friends at Sport Manitoba, presented by Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. And today we take a trip downtown to the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame and welcome in our pal John Waldman. John, what's going on? How are you?
Doing pretty well. It's good to see you guys.
It was great to see you back at the Hall of Fame for our whiskey tasting event as we headed into Whiskey Fest. I know that's a huge event for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. How did it all go?
It went extremely well. This was our first year at the RBC Convention Center. It was a tremendous night, or 2 nights, of sampling and savoring. Everybody really had some positive feedback for us. And for us as an organization to be working as we do with Manitoba Liquor Mart on that event, it went extremely well. And lots of good feedback, lots of planning already going forward for next year.
Well, and speaking of next year, I mean, now that Whiskey Fest is past, it's definitely back to business for you and everybody at the Hall of Fame because we got a Hall of Fame class of 2025 to nominate. Tell us what's happening right now behind the scenes as we get ready for November.
Yeah, absolutely. So really the nomination season is on throughout the year. There isn't an official close or anything like that where we say, no, you have to hold on to your papers or anything like that. But we do have a deadline of Tuesday, April 15th for our selection committee to ponder the nominations that do come in. So we are looking for individuals to be nominated up until that time, from individual athletes to builders to complete teams or some sort of hybrid within.
Now we'll get to the categories and the eligibility, but speak to for a moment like the significance of recognizing and nominating people that have made big contributions, whether they be on the field or around sport to help sport here in Manitoba.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that's isn't known enough is that it isn't decisions that are just made arbitrarily by a selection committee. It's not just me sitting around with a couple people and saying, who do you want to put in this year? It is a full nomination process. This is something that is open to the public, either by individuals, by organizations such as the sport organizations or clubs. This is a true public entry opportunity to put support somebody that is either long serving or they are retired or they have made their mark in one form or another on our province's sports history. And it is a point in of itself that it is our province. This isn't a Winnipeg Sports Hall of Fame. This is all across the province.
Now, let's get into the categories. I mean, there's obviously athletes, and you can speak to that and what you're looking for in nominees from athletics. But there are also a number of other people that, can be nominated, or I guess in other categories for their contributions to the sport and Sport Manitoba in other ways.
Absolutely. So it is the athlete is, as you said, is pretty straightforward. It's anybody that is that has competed at a high level. We look for individuals that have had success to the national and international levels, along with great contributions to their clubs or to our Winnipeg sports community and on a participatory level. They do have to be retired for a couple years in order to be eligible, so it can't be somebody that is just coming out of the Olympics or somebody that is coming from a major tournament. And obviously we've had some major successes, and with the NCAA March Madness just starting, we will have a couple more coming forward very quickly. But they do have to be completed from their most active parts of their career. If you're still on the senior circuit or you're still playing rec, that's totally understandable. We know that a lot of people are forever athletes, so we certainly don't disqualify there. For builders, this is a very interesting and very broad category because it can include anybody that's been a longtime volunteer just on a very basic capacity, or they've been a director, they've helped found clubs, they've been an official, they've been a coach, they've done any number of pieces, but made an impact on that sports community. As I mentioned before, there is the hybrid also of individuals who have done both as an athlete as well as a builder. And that's sometimes an interesting one to look at because we know of a lot of people that when their time on the field or on the ice or on the court ends, that doesn't mean that their connection with that sport ceases by any stretch of the imagination. It can be anybody who is taking that next step and preparing the future greats or working to improve their sport through any number of means. And it's really important that those individuals get recognized on both sides of the area. And then you have the teams, and the team accomplishments are a little bit more straightforward. The past inductees often will include somebody that has won, say, a national title in the likes of the of U Sports, or that'll be somebody that has had incredible performance in their pro leagues. We do have a number of Bombers teams, of Jets teams, and a couple Gold Ice teams from the 50s and 60s that have been inducted. And that can either be a single accomplishment or it could be a dynasty.
You know, coaching, of course, is such a big part of it as well. Where do the coaches fit into all of this?
They are a big part of our builders. And when you look at some of those names that have gone in, perfect example is Garth Pischke, who in as an individual, and a couple of his teams have gone in since. Garth has been so instrumental in building the sport of volleyball, first as a player, but then going into his coaching career. You look at other individuals that have done immeasurable things and impacted the lives not only of those who continued on in their sports, but outside of sports. The value of a coach cannot be overstated, and what they do for the overall development of an individual or a team, and the work that they do definitely deserves to be recognized.
Well, you know, speaking of Garth Pischke with volleyball, I mean, I'm sure in the future, at some point when he stops coaching, we'll have we'll be talking about Ken Bentley. How about the women from the Bisons on the weekend winning the national championship on home court?
My God, that was amazing. And I played volleyball for a couple years in high school, taken whenever I can, but the level of competition in volleyball is amazing to see. And when you look at how that stadium was filled and how people were rooting on volleyball, I've always believed that volleyball can be as good and as well attended a professional sport as basketball or others. This might be a momentum driver. This could be something that changes the perception of volleyball in our province and really grows it. Quite honestly, I think that there's a lot of good lessons that we can learn from that. And I think that the individuals that are part of that team and the coaches and the whole staff around it really, I can't say for certain that they will be a future Hall of Fame inductee, but it's something that I think that when we look back in 20 years, you'll say that this was a very unique, special opportunity we had, as you mentioned, to win it on home turf, to have those women competing as they did and competing as hard as they did and driving home the message that not only is volleyball an excellent sport to play, but it is one that is here to stay and is only going to grow from here. Quite honestly, I think that this is going to be a launch point that we're going to be looking at down the road.
Well, not only to give them their kudos for the Nationals win, but it's a perfect example of something that is somewhat Hall of Fame worthy. You've got a coach that's been doing it for 39 years that wins another national championship. I guarantee we'll be talking about Ken Bentley at some point here. But as far as eligibility goes, let's use this team. I mean, listen, you got a team that's got a 2-time player of the year on it, the Bison all-time kills leader, the Bison all-time digs leader. We had Julie Arnold and Katrina Bentley on the show a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of things that this group has already done that you would be quote unquote Hall of Fame worthy, but let's talk about the eligibility, because is there a time for teams that you have to wait until they're nominated, and for things like coaches that are still active, do we wait until coaches are finished, or are they eligible to be nominated even if they're still on the sidelines?
It's a good question. And quite honestly, when you're looking at coaches and when you're looking at teams, there isn't an official waiting period, but generally speaking, you're looking to first nominate somebody that somebody will be selected if they have a little bit of history to them. Certainly, you're not waiting for everybody on that team to retire as you would be with an athlete. That's just not possible. Same thing with a coach. And in general, when you're looking at those builders, there's a recognition that, yeah, this is somebody that is going to be perpetually doing this for eons. Nor is this by any stretch just the quote unquote lifetime achievement award. It's not something that's, after 25 years of of service that automatically you get into the Hall of Fame or something like that. This is a true accomplishment, and there is, as I said, this is a nomination process, and honestly, like we do a lot of research. We always, poke around and say, who haven't we really thought about, and we'll certainly encourage some nominations. But we really want to hear about those individuals that maybe we haven't heard about. And one of the things that's also important to emphasize is that when you look at coaches, when you look at teams, we often will think about some of the more popular sports in our province, but we have so many sports, dozens upon dozens, that really have that eligibility, and we want to make sure that there is a good diversity in that sport representation. It can be somebody that is, we have inductees from across bowling, we have inductees from lacrosse, we have inductees, yes, across some of our more prominent sports such as hockey, baseball, football, but we really go across the board. We had our first inductee into the Hall of Fame 2 years ago from cross-country skiing, Brent Bottomley, and he's a perfect example of somebody who put in hours upon hours, years upon years of dedication. And unfortunately, his was a posthumous induction, but it was still definitely an impactful one. And when you look at what his community did to support his nomination and how everybody came together for that night, yes, it was unquestionably one of the most emotional moments of the year for us, but it was so richly deserved for everything that he did during his lifetime in his dedication to cross-country skiing. And I think that's the same thing would apply whether you are in gymnastics, whether you're in swimming. You really have to look at that landscape, and we really have to say that, yes, my sport deserves that recognition. We want to make sure that we are getting that spot in the Hall of Fame, and the way that begins is with that nomination.
John Waldman from the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame is with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and we're looking ahead to nominations for this year's class of 2025 for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. The deadline is April 15th to get the nominations in the athlete category, in the builder category as well. John, what's involved in making a nomination? If someone wants to nominate somebody, a team, a coach, a player, what do they have to do and how do they go about it?
Yeah, they can do one of two things. You can either go onto the Sport Manitoba website at sportmanitoba.ca. The nomination forms are up there, both in English and in French. As well, they can email our office at hallofFame@sportsmanitoba.ca, or you can call me at 204-925-5936. We do like to have the at least part of the submission coming in electronically if possible, but if it's not, then we're not going to hold that against you. And certainly within that nomination form, we ask for some of the qualifications based on categories that we have previously ascribed. But if there's supporting documents that can come in, letters of recommendation, news articles, pieces like that can help build that profile for when our selection committee meets, that makes it all that more valuable, and we have a richer profile as we go into those deliberations.
So again, Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame nominations closing on April 15th. Well, great stuff, John. I mean, listen, it's always fun to kick around the incredible people that are going into the hall, but you can't go into the hall if you're not nominated. So get those nominations in. For more information, you can go to the website for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. And again, the deadline is April 15th to get your nominations in for the 2025 class for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. John, great stuff. We'll stay in touch, and looking forward to connecting as we get closer to November and another incredible class of Hall of Famers here in our province.
Absolutely. I don't doubt that this is going to be an amazing class.
Again, it's the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. Find it online. This has been another It Takes a Community to Play segment for Sport Manitoba, brought to you by Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. Aria at 3 under. The 2 unders include Billy Ho, Victor Perez, Jake Knapp, and Ben Griffin, who are just still in the front 9 right now. 1 unders, Nikolai Højgaard, Xander Schauffele, Benny On, Sam Stevens. Corey Connors is 1 under. We're sort of locked in on him in the lock shop this week. He's 1 under through 8 right now. Victor Hovland, who's been struggling crazily, is 1 under right now. Other Canadians, Adam Hadwin is even through 10. Ben Silverman even through 9 today. See Shane Lowry even through 9 as well. And let's see if anyone really, really blew up today, because this is a difficult golf course. Oh, yeah, we got a 10 over. We got a couple 9s. Johnny Vegas is 7 over right now. First round continuing. Mac Hughes, 3 over through 8. Adam Scott, Tom Kim as well in at 3 over par, along with our old buddy Kiz, who was just doing a commentary for their Players' Championship. Cannot wait to get out to Breezy Bend this year. We'll be talking lots more about Breezy coming up when golf season joins us next month in April. And hey, speaking of spring and summer, cannot wait to get out to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge this year. Listen, I know a lot of people are maybe changing their summer plans, maybe travel out of the country is not on the table. Why don't you consider going to a Jewel of Manitoba for a fly-in fishing experience like no other at Aikens Lake, with world-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the amazing Aikens team and the Turan family. And of course, you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, including a short flight up to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Find out more online, aikenslake.com, and check out all of their socials and give them a follow at Aikens Lake. All right, let's get Remo back in here and let's get to the Coolbet lines. It hasn't gone so well so far for my March Madness picks. We lost with Simon Hildebrand and High Point. And holy smokes, I hope you didn't have Clemson going far. They're down 21-8 early on to McNeese State. But we have a huge night in the National Hockey League. Some big, big games when it comes to the playoff races. Panthers in Columbus to the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets need a win badly. They're plus 158. The Calgary Flames coming off that win against the listless Rangers a couple days ago, staying in the New York metro area, taking on the Devils tonight. Calgary's plus 145. The Leafs and Rangers go at it at MSG. Leafs with a big win last night and an absolutely bizarre winning goal. Leafs are plus 110, Rangers minus 130. Rio, did you catch the winner last night in that Leafs Avalanche game?
Yes, assist to the referee. Hit him
Holy smokes, was that weird?
Yeah, it seemed like he tried to get out of the way, but actually got in the way of the puck. And I mean, it wasn't like it was some, nice goal. It was like a shot from distance that you think gets saved. Maybe the goalie was thrown off.
They were clearing it, killing a penalty.
Yeah.
And then he grabbed it right around the blue line, went in and just ripped one top corner, ended up being the winner. As I say, Leafs plus 110, Rangers minus 130 tonight. The Avalanche coming off that loss to Toronto or in Ottawa tonight. Sens a home dog plus 101, Avs minus 119. You got the Flyers and Caps going at it in DC. Washington minus 250 faves. The Islanders are minus 139 favorites against the Habs. Massive game in the East. Montreal plus 118. And then the game tonight when it comes to the wild card in the West, outside of Calgary, you got Vancouver and St. Louis head-to-head in Missouri. St. Louis minus 141, Vancouver plus 120. One of the other games of the night, we got this great one between the Jets and Oilers. Tampa's in Dallas tonight. Tampa, a slight road favorite over Dallas. It won't be Jake Ottinger. It's going to be Casey DeSmith. Tampa minus 114, Dallas minus 103. The Preds minus 169 faves against the Ducks. Kings, big road favorites against the Blackhawks, minus 252. We'll finish up with the Jet game. Utah also needs a win after that drubbing at the hands of the Oilers. They're minus 171 favorites at home to Buffalo. Vegas is minus 286 favorites against the Bruins. And the Panthers, huge road favorites, minus 345 in San Jose against the Sharks. Interesting line movement in this Jets game. And not surprising, considering Leon Draisaitl is out. Earlier today, Jets were plus 110. Oilers were minus 130. The Oilers are now a slight home favorite at minus 116. Winnipeg just over even money at minus 101. And as far as player goals tonight, obviously Draisaitl's doubtful. He's not expected to play, so don't bet Leon to score. And don't waste your bet on Leon will not score, because if he doesn't play, those are just refunded. But Kyle Connor is plus 142, McDavid plus 149, Zach Hyman plus 190, Scheifele plus 200, Ehlers, who's been hot lately, plus 235, Cole Perfetti plus 380, Vlad plus 510, Morrissey plus 560. I'm going to have to ask him for a number on Nino one of these days, Remis, because he's got to break that slump, and I would like to be on it. We'll put together a little WST parlay. Who should we go with? Another Ehlers goal tonight? He always seems to play great against the Oilers.
Yeah, I always like line 2 on the road. You know, they're kind of matching for the top lines. Maybe line 2 goes a bit unnoticed, and they've been playing really well lately. So if you want to go Ehlers, you want to go Perfetti, those would be the picks for me. But you saw Ehlers. I mean, he can do it all himself. He plays power play 1, so he'd probably be more likely to score there. I mean, Velarde, his number is looking pretty low too, plus 250 for a guy in line 1. Power play 1, he's big in front of the net. That seems that seems kind of low for him. I know hasn't scored a ton lately, but the opportunity is always going to be there for him. And
I think what we'll end up doing is going an Ehlers goal, and let's go a Perfetti point and a Morrissey point and a Jets win. That'll probably be a pretty good number. You can check that out in the exclusives. I'll fire it over to Jake and the boys and get that up in the next hour or so. One other thing to check out tonight, late night, 9:30 p.m., just as we're getting into the short strokes of this Jets-Oilers game, it's Canada and Mexico playing in the CONCACAF Nations League final. The winner will move on to the weekend to play the winner of USA and Panama. Huge line movement. This basically opened as a pick'em. Now on the three-way home draw away, Canada plus 220, the draw plus 240, and Mexico plus 135. This game isn't in Mexico. It's in LA. They'll probably have the majority of the fans at the game. But I'm surprised that Canada is as big of an underdog. I think I'll be looking at the draw no bet at Canada plus 125. Probably make that the play of the day today over at Coolbet. But everything on the Nations League, Canada, Mexico, right there in the left margin, where you'll find the exclusives a little bit later on. Should be fun tonight, Reem. Looking forward to seeing some of the WSTers and some friends getting together for a couple 1919s, a pie, and hopefully a big Jet win at BP Garden City at 8.
Yeah, I enjoyed the last time we went. I know a bunch of people in chat are talking about the reserve table. I'm looking forward to pick a player. I forget who I had last time, but there were so many goals, so it was great to see so many people getting free stuff from spinning the wheel. And I know Edmonton's goaltending has been solid the last couple of games, but they've been known to give up a few. What was the total on this one? Connor Hellebuck. I mean, he's usually pretty good bouncing back after a loss. So it is 5.5. So we'll see what we get here. It will be a 3-2, 4-1 kind of game. So yeah, or will it be a 6-0 like it was the first time they met? Certainly all in the cards here.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, we'll see that. I know Royal Sports is saying the game's at 9. It's actually 9:30. I think the broadcast starts at 9. But yeah, 21:30 for kickoff tonight, Canada, Mexico. So we'll be paying attention to that as well as the Jets and the Oilers. Hopefully we'll see you tonight, gang. And if not, we'll see you tomorrow to break it down and get ready for the weekend, as the Jets will probably have tomorrow off. I would imagine practice Saturday before the Buffalo Sabres come in on Sunday. But always fun when the Jets and Oilers get together. 8 o'clock tonight, the puck drops. And as I said, we'll see you with our friends at Little Brown Jug down at Boston Pizza Garden City for a WST watch party for what hopefully will be a great game. Thanks to John Waldman, Brandon Rewucki, handsome Tommy Gazzola for jumping by, and of course, everyone that was hanging out with us live in chat. Shout out to you podcast listeners. Have a great night. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you tomorrow for a big Friday edition of WST, including the marble race, so we know we'll see you then.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.